So the resin that holds everything together when the rod is rolled and baked, that's the glue that keeps it all together.
Right.
So some of that stuff years ago when the nano type stuff came in, that was a different setup of that glue, basically, that kept everything together in a different way.
Makes sense.
So that's the stuff that you see, like when you roll the rod and it's first finished and you take the cellophane off or whatever, and you've got that like spiral looking glossy look on the outside. Sure. That's the glue that is like coming out of everything from the...
Which is why you see it on some of the blanks.
Right.
Especially if it's an unfinished blank.
You keep that on, or when it's done, then you sand it off.
Sure.
And then you have a sanded blank that's totally smooth that you can then
You'd still see it, though.
And painted.
Like, you can still see it on some of our rods that are fully sanded that don't have that, like, glossy finish.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't hide that. You still see that, like, spiral, vertical type design.
Unless you paint it.
Unless you
then
paint
it's
it.
like smooth and,
Right, it hides
flawless.
That. It's like putting paint over the top of it.
Exactly.
So that question makes sense. Yeah, if you don't explain all the different, I guess what do you call them, grades.
Sure.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything to someone if you're like, this is the best one out there. You call it by the real name, When someone doesn't understand those grades, and so that question makes sense to be able to release a product.
You got to give a customer, though, a graph of like the breakdown of everything for them to be like, oh, I'm here with this rod.
Yeah.
This rod is here.
If you're going to push that, for sure, you got to explain the other qualities.
Which I think,
or grades.
I don't know, makes it sound way more techy.
It does.
And at least the customer kind of knows where they're at, as far as like what they're buying, what the price point is at, and the quality of the graphite that they're getting, or not graphite in some cases, fiberglass.
Yep.
I don't own any fiberglass rods, by the way.
No.
I got one. It's a little 5-foot 2-weight Diamondback. You remember this?
I know that rod.
It's a 2-piece 5-foot 2-weight. Things is fun.
They're fun and
but I don't use them. I use them to have some fun.
So in like an actual fishing scenario, they're kind of fun on like the smaller stream type stuff. Like smaller upstream dry fly type stuff, like where you actually need a little shorter rod, but it's got the flex to actually deliver a fly line. But the majority of fishing situations, like, no, I do not want anything to do with glass.
Pull out that thing to have fun.
They're fun on a casting pond at a trade show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Honestly, I have to change my complete casting style when I fish a glass. Like, it's way, way slower.
I had that rod years ago. I think it was in my office.
Is that a blue one? Didn't we have?
Just like
It's
a
black.
Black one?
Graphite color, yeah.
I don't know.
Those rods were a gloss black. Look at it. It was gloss black.
Yeah, probably.
Bring it in. You still got it?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
We need a new.
It's got a finesse trout 3 on it.
We need a new office casting rod.
Dude, this thing's
and
incredible.
it should be. It's 5 feet.
It's a 5-foot 2-weight.
Yeah, 2-piece.
That's perfect.
So cool.
Some of the shit we're using right now, there's a 9-weight out there now.
Last time I used it, I was in the Adirondacks throwing top water for smallmouth just to make it fun. Just crushed a few. It was awesome.
We need an office rod. That's a good one to have.
I think it's cool.
When you're only casting 40 feet in the office, like a stiff 9-weight is not very much fun.
Yeah, you got to get on your knees.
Yeah. Plus, when it lands in Sue's office and she gets pissed because you just ripped a cast in there versus the 2-weight. Well, welcome to the program, everyone. This is Cortland Line Hooked, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooks Robson. I'm here with my boys, special guest today in studio, Mr. Nate Dablock and Mr. Chris Rotchford. Right. Thanks for joining us, boys. Before we did this podcast, and for those of you that don't know Nate or don't know Chris, which some of you may have met these boys at a trade show or just they're long-term employment here at Cortland Line. Nate and Chris are very talkative, nor do they want to be on a podcast. So it was my goal that I was going to put these microphones and headphones on and just say like, hey guys, can you come in and do like a quick sound check just to make sure everything. And Matt was going to have like the cameras rolling and you guys weren't going to know that we were actually filming a podcast.
Right.
But that was a week ago. And since we've had to kind of like reschedule this, the cat's out of the bag and you guys know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have you guys in today for multiple reasons. One, I think we would title this show like the Veterans of Cortland or the OGs of Cortland, because you guys have been here for the longest out of any employee here, with the exception of part-time Peggy and Put Up and Norm and Flyline. I don't think anyone else has been here longer than you guys.
Eddie's been here a while.
Eddie has been here.
Eddie was here before me.
And it's not that I don't want to have those guys on the show, and it's not because I don't think they'd be great guests, but your background at Cortland in sales, marketing, trade shows, product development, you know what I mean? Like you guys are well versed in all of that stuff. So I feel like we could give our listeners like a much good detailed background of both your employment here. It's kind of the history of Cortland, some cool stuff, some funny stuff, you know what I mean? Where those guests, you know, there's only so much there, right? You guys have you're well-rounded employees and you've been involved in pretty much everything from day one, you know what I mean? So I also wanted to have you guys on because I want people to listen to this podcast and over time know who we're referencing. You know, in like a year from now, I'm like, oh yeah, Nate Dogg, or oh yeah, Chris. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember those guys from that podcast that those guys did. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's going to help people purchase Cortland products and relate to an employee. Like when they know that you do a lot of the purchasing here for like fluorocarbon, nylon, you know, plastisol for that stuff. And you're involved in product development, braid development, you know, in the background, like there's a face or a name to the actual product. You know, when some dude goes out and rips 15-pound mass braid, he's like, chances are Nate Dogg probably touched this stuff. For sure. Or some dude's taking off top secret sip it off this spool. He's like, chances are Chris probably got this in and got the spool and got the label and everything together. Got it? So I wanted people to be able to, like I said, put a face to the name if they're watching on YouTube, put a name to the product if they're just going to listen. And then over time, like as this show progresses, they're going to be, when I reference people, like people are going to know who Ricky is. He's been a co-host in here. Matt Barovi, he's been a co-host. People know who I am at this point in time. You know what I mean? So I think it'll just help people listening and consumers listening just kind of know who you guys are and know that there's a name and a face and an actual person behind what they're buying, what they're fishing. For sure. You know what I mean? So yes, I tried to trick you guys to come in here, but I thought it was a good idea. It was definitely going to work, but unfortunately we had to reschedule until today, which is fine. At the end of the day, we're here, we're rolling. It's holiday season. I enjoy the holiday season the most because it's a time, I call it the holidays, right? We got to be PC. You can't say, you know, Christmas anymore, although we'll reference that. So it's holiday season here. I even wore my holiday sweater today.
So sharp.
I found it in the basement last week, and I'm like, this thing's going to get some use in the next couple weeks. So I brought it up to my closet that I pick clothes from.
I feel underdressed.
I know you said that as soon as you go, bro, that's a nice sweater. Well, you got to understand, a lot of people are just listening, right? They're not going to watch this on YouTube, but they can. So if people are listening, like, I got to see this guy's wacky sweater,
take a look at
they can see it.
The real thing.
I haven't worn it. I think it's been in my closet for 8 years. I had to stretch it out to get the wrinkles out. It smelled like shit, and I had to throw it in the dryer with some dryer sheets on it. So it feels right. What do you look forward the most, like in that late December, January, Christmas, New Year's timeframe? You get together with family. Is it food? Is it booze? Is it fishing? Like, I love the holiday season, not because of the weather around here. Like the weather around in upstate New York, like there's not much snow on the ground yet, right? So you can't really do those things. Water's not frozen, so you're not ice fishing. Deer season's kind of coming to a close here, and they're all freaking skittish from gunshots, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I just I don't know. I think the overall like morale of people during holiday season,
great.
with the exception of your bank account buying Christmas presents, like it's good. You know what I mean?
It is.
Do you travel anywhere for holidays, or you staying put?
I'm staying put. Not a whole lot going on.
Do you have family come up?
Sometimes.
Get together with your
not always.
brother-in-law, wife's sister, party. Christmas parties. We got to have a Christmas party.
Like a real Christmas
Like
party.
we have like a holiday dinner, right, at Cortland, but I want like throw a ripper where like someone gets in trouble and like potentially gets
When
fired
I
because they do
first
something
started,
stupid.
We used to have some
You know what I'm saying?
late night.
Yeah, like pick a
was-
restaurant in Cortland or
you remember a
somewhere
couple?
around there.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
When was the last time?
there were?
10 years.
No, it's got to be more than
I
that.
don't know. There was.
Well, let me ask you this question, all right, and we'll get back to that. How long have you been with Cortland Line?
I started in the building
Yeah,
in '96.
96. Okay, I'm terrible at math, so how long is that?
I'm doing my math. At
So 25 years.
25 years for Nate Dogg, and how long have you been?
15.
15.
07.
Yep.
So you're talking 40 years experience combined between the two of you. So you've seen
so.
a lot of stuff over the years at Cortland.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to me, I've been here for like 10 years, which I think is like an eternity, but
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
25 years and
For our
15
age, right?
years. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
somewhere that
this
long.
is the only job I've ever had. Pretty much the only job you've ever had. Only job, I mean, okay, with besides like the stupid jobs when you get out of school
Grocery
and you're like,
store,
yeah, exactly.
dishwasher,
Making
local
snow at
bar.
the ski resort, washing golf carts. You know, I'm talking like a real job.
Yeah,
You
for
know what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
I honestly, if I had to get a new job and I couldn't be in the fishing industry, I would not know what the hell I would want to do in life.
Oh, I hear you.
I literally would. This is all I know.
Yeah, if I got a new job, it would definitely still be in the fishing.
It would have to be.
Wow.
But I mean, this is literally all I know. I don't know anything else. I can't fix anything. I call Nate. Nate and I. So I live in Syracuse. Nate
I
lives
got
in
a couple
Syracuse.
backups, but
If I have a flat tire and I don't have air to pump it up, I call Nate. If I have a headlight out, I call Nate.
We
I
know.
am
We know.
I am hopeless when it comes to actually doing
repairs.
like normal man home repair type stuff
His wife tracked me down at Home Depot to help her with light bulbs.
with a light
when-
bulb.
she's like, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah, no, my kids
Lit-
did. They go,
literally.
Nate, and they're like, he's like, what are you doing
remember
here?
the
They're like,
story.
we need to get a light bulb. And the one, 2 years ago, I was redoing my gutters in my house because they were old. So I went to Home Depot, bro. I dropped a rack on new gutters, and I could not put these things in. Like I was bloody, cut up, and it was hot out. I called Nate, and I was like, dude,
I remember some.
I go, can you come over and help me for a quick second?
Yeah, but he didn't say that this was already at like 9:30 at night.
Oh, yeah, it was getting dark.
It was dark.
It was dark.
put in a full day.
And,
just didn't.
well, me and my kid were at home. I don't know. I think the wife was out doing something, and it was like 9:30 at night. And I'm like,
Which
hey.
is still light out in the summertime in upstate
Yeah,
New York.
but it was-
It's getting there.
So I say to my kid, I'm like, we got to go to Brooks' house. He's like, what? Now?
I was like, dude, these gutters, like, and it was hot. I had a few cocktails. I was on a step ladder. Like, it was not going well. And Nate comes over and he looks at it. He goes, it's all backwards. I go, what do you mean it's backwards? Like, I couldn't fit the two gutters with the piece in there, like the corner piece.
Yeah.
He had it all together, and it was great. I was like,
Dude, for putting
shocked.
for putting a gutter system in completely backwards, it was really nice, but it was not going to function.
It was
got the
not
sides on.
what
You
I-
got to the point where like just something
Yeah,
wasn't
the
right.
corner piece, it was higher than the other two pieces. I'm like, the water's not going to flow. Like, simple physics here. And Nate took the whole thing out. He flipped it all around and put it back in 15 minutes. He's like, can I go home now? I'm like, yeah, you can go home. So, anyways,
It was good.
back to my original question. It's holiday season.
Yeah.
I think we need a Christmas party, like a real, like a party. I think we've gotten back to the point at Cortland where, like, we need a party. We need to rent out a banquet room. We need to rent out a corner of a bar. I think we're ready for that.
yeah. I mean, years ago, that was a big deal.
It's fun, right?
It was a big deal.
I mean, you see people outside.
I mean,
we're
there
like,
was
was.
many Christmas parties that like ended up staying at the hotel. Like, oh, we got to get a room. Like, we're not going home.
yeah, I want that. That's
So,
what I want.
right.
I want that. Like, I want my wife to call at 11:30 and like, are you coming home? Like, actually, Nate and I got a hotel and we had to crash here. Like, we
We'll
have.
have to plan that out for next year. I think in order to make it happen this year. I don't know.
I don't think we had enough time to make it to do it the way we want to do it. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. We try, even if it's just like 10 of us. It's good. It's fun to hang out with coworkers.
Oh, for sure.
After work, you know what I mean? Like, we hang out because we're boys. The rest of us hang out, you know, in the office. You know, Ricky, Scott, Matt, little Matt, the engineer. Like, we're friends, so we hang out. But you know,
Well, you need to clarify too that yes, we're friends and we've known each other a long time, but like we like grew up together
Sure.
on a certain level.
Well, we did. You and I did. Nate and I are
Yes.
from the same hometown,
Right.
which is like 10 minutes
Just
up the road
just
here.
over the hill. Just
Yeah.
Which is just over the
never
hill.
ran into each other.
So, anyways, I love the holiday season. I also love the fact that right now we are in the heat of our fantasy football league. We're just discussing having
week.
final weeker of who's going to make playoffs, which is a big deal. We were just discussing having to meet with our buyer Jim and making sure his roster is up to snuff so he can take on our sales manager Zach and beat him because we cannot have him in the playoffs.
he is
so
on a tear right now.
he's got like seven in a row. So we're gonna sit down with Jim before this day ends and make sure his roster. Like he's got a new quarterback in there, which was a terrible decision. Like Jim is not a fantasy football coach by any means. He tries and he means well, but he needs a little kind of coaching. You know what I mean? Chris
I'm
has
the
been
lone
doing
wolf
this.
too because I'm the one that didn't like get in on it, and I honestly had no desire.
But you could look at his roster and be like, Jim, this is terrible, bro.
we need
Like
you
you're
in on
gonna
this next
lose.
year.
We
There's a
decided
couple
like
people that are probably gonna-
Scott's in and Nate like
Probably not going to stay.
I'm gonna write an email and say basically the last two guys that finished dead last, which they're gone, and Scott and Nate are in. Okay, so that's why it makes it a little bit easier. The only way Nate's gonna play next year is if he gets Josh Allen as his quarterback, because he just loves the Bills.
Yeah,
like if
You'll enjoy it.
if he ended up with like the Jets quarterback or the Dolphins, like he would be so pissed. There's gonna have to be like a disclaimer at the next year's league that's like Nate gets Josh Allen at
My
some
buddy
point
Matt,
in the pick.
big Bills fan, Matt Smith, used to work here actually.
yes,
Gets Allen every year.
okay.
So this will be the third year he's gotten Allen. Whether he goes out of his way, it's not a good pick, but it always pays off.
It's gonna be regardless of good pick or bad pick. Nate's gonna pick.
And to
Josh
clarify,
Allen.
I'm not just like jumping on the Bills wagon now that they're doing really well.
No, you've
It's
been
like,
through thick and thin.
I've been through a lot. Talking 4 consecutive.
Bro, I'm a
losing
Cowboys
Super
fan. I
Bowls.
know all
Yeah,
about
well,
it.
It's just like Ricky and his Jets, man.
Right.
We've been listening to him.
You gotta stay with your guns. I
years,
also I
finally.
will say I jumped on the Cowboys bandwagon when I was like 5 when they won like 3 Super Bowls in a
when
row.
they beat the Bills twice in a row.
Right.
It's crazy what a following they had around here. You go to any gas
I
station,
know.
you see the Bills.
We're in upstate New York. It's Bills.
Dallas.
Yeah, it's like you got your Bills,
It could be
Jets,
Bills,
Giants,
Jets. No.
but Dallas.
Dallas is always
Dallas is
there.
always there.
I don't know what they did.
I don't know.
or
It
why.
was from those
Just
Super
the
Bowls. So like
right? They played each other 4 years in a row.
I'm
I
like, bro,
think.
you can't be a front
Did they
runner.
lose three
The
in a row?
Bills
3.
went 4 years in a row, and they lost all 4 of them.
3 of them to Dallas.
2 of them to
2 of 'em.
Dallas.
So, anyways, that sealed the deal for me at 6 years old. I was like, can't be a Bills fan, got to be a Cowboys fan. My dad literally buzzed a Dallas Star in the back of my head because I was a Cowboys fan. I went to school, bro, for a month and a half with a Dallas Star buzzed into the back of my head. I'll find a picture of it. If I find a picture
like
of
to
it, we're
see
going to
that.
post that on this YouTube channel for the
Yeah.
folks to check out. How much of a loser I was when I was 6 years old. So, but I'm still a Cowboys fan. You can't be a front runner, bro. You can't jump ship. You're at this point in time in your life, like you got to stick it out. Which has worked out great for you. Now the Bills are good. Cowboys, every year they let me down. So, anyways, that's enough football talk. All right, biggest thing in the holidays for you boys, Nate. What is your favorite holiday meal? Like when it comes to like that, like Christmas, New Year's time, like what do you look forward to most? Like, is it ham? Is it like what? Like, you got a specific meal that you're like
Christmas is probably either ham or lasagna.
oh yeah, you're a big lasagna guy.
Big lasagna. I'll make like a couple trays of lasagna and eat it for like a week and a
He
half.
eats it cold. He told me he eats it cold.
Eat it
not
eat
that
it
cold.
cold,
I'm not a big-
breakfast, lunch. Try to take a bunch of time off around Christmas too. So it's like get up, cold lasagna.
Start your day.
Start my
That's
day
the
off.
holidays, man.
Kool-Aid, cold lasagna. Start my day.
I
All right.
like that. No, I like that.
Ham
And
lasagna.
you drawn, yeah.
Chris, what is
I
your
think-
like your go-to
I think,
like
man,
Christmas, New Year's
I don't really
holiday
have
meal?
A go-to. I think just the variety, right? Like my family and Heather's family, just there's always so many different options. So it's hard. I don't think of something specific. There's always things like ham, but I think just the variety, appetizers.
Options that you normally don't make the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, appetizers, just all sorts of just
I love appetizers during the
Yeah.
holiday season.
all day.
Christmas
So that's what I
cookies.
think about. There's nothing maybe specific. Just man.
So the holiday variety.
Variety,
Okay,
right?
next question. What is your favorite holiday cocktail, Nate?
Ooh.
Are you going right to the eggnog or you no?
No, I'm pretty.
The 24-ounce tall boy Bud Light.
Stick with the beer. I don't really care either way.
Do you have a holiday cocktail?
Yeah.
What's the one you said Heather's sister made?
I don't know the names. For me, I'd rather go with like 3 bottles of wine.
Okay.
You know, some nice
I'll do
Finger Lakes
some wine.
Yeah.
I'll crack the bottle of wine
I'm good with
open.
all wine, but yeah, if I had to pick a specific cocktail, just something fruity with vodka. They always have something that's like cranberry vodka, tons of fruit. You got cranberries, blueberries.
I like it.
Fruit floating in it.
I like it.
And when you take a sip, it's just like
Yeah, it hits
stronger
you.
than should- yeah. So that's always flowing, but I always got the.
It's a great answer. Backup
wine.
is wine, but
Yeah.
the,
No,
a
it
nice
starts with wine, and backups
Right.
the drink everyone else.
fruity holiday
Yeah.
vodka.
So-
What do you look forward to the least about the holiday season, Nate? Like you're like, oh God, this is coming up. Like for me, like I said before, it's like I'm gonna look
Buying gifts.
Yeah. Not that you don't like to buy gifts for people. It's just like it crushes the account at the end of the day.
Just yeah, I'm not a shopper.
Oh, that's
I don't
what you
like
meant.
to-
Yeah.
It just
I know what you're saying. You're like, I got to get a gift for my sister and my mom. Like, what are you gonna get them? You know what I mean? Like buying stuff for your son. It's kind of easy. You know what he's into. He's a guy. You're a guy. But like getting gifts, like even for my wife, dude. Like I can think of a couple things that she's kind of hit it at. But like getting stuff for my mom or my sisters, or like, you're right though. Like what you need to purchase. Like I don't know. I feel like Chris is good at these types of things. You
Yeah.
get crafty with the
I am
gifts.
good at that. I think it's just next thing we know, we have all these lists and all these things we need to do and all these places we need to travel to get all these things. But
Yeah.
like coming up with the gifts, we're good at that. Yeah. It's just all the travel. I think that goes along with the holidays.
I
and
would
just the things you
totally
gotta get done.
agree with that. It's for me, it's always the one place you have to go to for like not necessarily a party, but a gathering that you just dread.
Yeah.
Right. There's some stuff that I do love. Like I like getting together with my sisters, my parents. Like we always have a great time. But there's always like
Do you always have to travel on Christmas Day to like house to
we
house,
do,
or-
but we live next to each other, bro.
Yeah.
I go there anyways every
Same
day.
with
It's
my
not a
mom,
big
but-
deal. Like we have our little Christmas, with my girls and my wife, in the morning, and then we go to my sisters and all get together, and it's great. But there's always like that one, maybe family, maybe not family, maybe it's her work or maybe it's her family that like you have to go to. You're like, this is gonna suck. Like I got to sit and deal with Aunt Betty for the next 4 hours. Like we used to travel to Jersey all the time, and it was just like, I don't know, you know what I mean? There's certain family that you love getting together with, and there's certain family that are just like, this guy's just not, they're just not fun. You know what I mean? And it takes away from things I want to do. Like if I have to burn a day to go to a party or a gathering that I don't want to go to, when I could be fishing,
For sure.
when I could be hunting, when I could be just sitting on my couch doing nothing.
anything.
That's what
takes
drives
away
me.
from that.
I would agree with
Sleepover.
that. The shopping, I get. I really.
Big vacation for a wedding or something. You got to take a full week or something to go like out of state. I mean, that's just fishing days just gone.
Gone.
Looking forward to.
So,
next
anyways,
year.
I agree. The shopping for people, not that much fun. The like the visits to places. You're like, oh, we got to go see Aunt Betty. The once a
overall
year thing we got to do, and it's
things
like,
you feel like you got
God
to
damn
get done. Just that whole
Anyways, yeah.
crunch.
So let's get back to you guys. So you guys, like I said, besides Eddie, Norm, Peggy, who we mentioned before, you guys have the longest employment here in Cortland. You're the most well-diverse employees in, as far as what you guys have worked on over the last combined 40 years. But like, let's get into some like real like who you are. Where were you born and raised, Nate?
born in Syracuse. Moved to Tully, which is just south of Syracuse, when I started kindergarten.
And you've been there ever since.
Man,
Was there, until I got back from my honeymoon and finally moved out of my parents' house. And
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
And then you moved back to Syracuse.
Yeah, and we're in Syracuse now.
So you're a local boy your whole life.
I'm a local boy.
Chris,
Similar
where were you born
to
and
my
raised?
story. I mean, born in San Diego, California.
San Diego?
Crazy as that sounds.
Doesn't he not strike you as a San Diego boy? Like
I
even
know,
if
I get that a lot, but I wasn't.
I know
I
if
had
you
no
don't
part of it,
if you don't get raised in San Diego, but like you're still born in San Diego.
I like it.
As
I feel that.
as Ron
Inside of
Burgundy
me.
would say,
Yeah.
it means a whale's vagina.
Exactly. I feel that.
So born in San Diego. Shout out
Then,
Anchorman.
Yeah.
And then what?
Came back here at a young age. I mean, same age as, I went to elementary school here at Homer, so just over the hill from where we sit right now. So yeah,
It's awesome.
born in California and moved back here. All my family's here. I think my mom at a young age just went out there to get away and
So
came
besides
back,
that, you guys
know?
are both local to Cortland. I mean, pretty freaking close here. And the same,
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in Cortland, grew up like same hometown as Nate, 10 minutes up the road. I mean, our school districts border each other with Chris. So that's cool. I mean, it's not often that you get to do something you love, like fishing, and then work for a fishing company, and you're not having to move to go do that.
Pretty
You know
cool.
what I mean? That doesn't, dude. There's people like I got friends that live in Rochester. There's no fishing companies in Rochester. You know what I mean? That they're like, I would love to like go work at Cortland.
agree.
So you got to remind yourself that you are pretty lucky. You know, to
I
be
think
able
about
to
it
do
all
that.
the time.
Yeah, with I agree. The passion I have for fishing, I felt like it was just meant to be to grow up in a town that has someone like Cortland Line.
It was a life savior for me because I'd be a
wild.
lost boy without this place and
right.
fishing. When you first started working at Cortland, Nate, what did you apply for? Was there a job opening? Was there like an actual? Did you fill out a resume? Like,
Like in '96.
yeah, I'm
when I
talking
started-
'96,
All right,
bro.
so this is
I was in like
so
third
this
grade in
story-
'96. But yes, go ahead.
So, one of our friends, Pat, that you know, so one of my good friends from home. Again, we were 16 years old at that time. Cortland became the U.S. distributor for STH Reels, which is a company that manufactured fly reels in Argentina. And they'd been around for a long time. And then at that time, Cortland became the distributor. So my buddy Pat, his neighbor was
Original president of Cortland
the
right?
president of Cortland at that time.
Okay.
So basically, how it shook out was his neighbor had asked him, like, "Hey, you want a job? You know, working. We got this thing going with this reel company, and they need some people to assemble reels and do
Service.
different things."
Yep.
Yeah. So Pat had come down and started working, and I think he was working for maybe a week or two, and the person running it, Juan, who is the owner's son of STH, he was here with his wife, kind of running the STH office, and said, "Hey, do you have any friends that might want to work? You know, we've got like all these reels and things like that to do." And literally, I remember it vividly. I was coming through Tully and turned the street, and Pat was, I don't know, in town, something, like yelled at my car and said,
Well, he didn't call you because this was pre-cell phone era.
yeah, this pre-everything. So, he just said to me, he's like, "Hey, I got this job, looking for some more guys. Do you want to come down? It's cool. It's like this fishing company doing fly reels or whatever." And I'm like, "Sure." And this is like literally like the week after my 16th birthday. Like I had just got my license and everything.
And so you did that to start was the STH thing, which
Yep.
Cortland was a distributor for.
Yep.
When do you start working for Cortland? Like the paychecks had Cortland Line on the top
That
of it.
was probably about halfway through college.
Got it.
Some things changed with that. I mean, we're still doing the STH thing. But at that time, I don't remember exactly the situation, but like we were like Cortland employees at that time. I was going to Syracuse University for industrial design. And basically from that time, when we started, like all through high school and then all through college, like I was coming down here like after school, at night, whenever, assembling reels, repairing reels, doing all that. And so it was probably like halfway through college, maybe like around 2000.
And when you started, an employee at Cortland at that point,
Yep.
like you said, after or in the middle of college, like what was your job then? Like, when do you stop working on reels for STH? Or have you, I mean, you still do to this day. I mean, we get reels in, guys will send reels in from like 35 years ago. They don't say anything to anyone. We get a reel that shows up and we're like, Nate, can you fix it? He pulls out like a giant like toolbox and knocks this thing out and sends it back to the guy.
Yeah.
Always.
What did you start doing for Cortland when you like stopped kind of doing the reel thing?
So basically,
you know what I mean?
like there was a few people, one person here in particular, that was a sales manager for Cortland. He kind of had like a, his name was Andy Sonic, great guy, awesome guy. He was a sales manager, I believe, but he was also like very like artistic, creative. Was kind of the person that handled a lot of the
Non-digital marketing, print marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the creative type stuff, just because that was kind of his thing. But there was still at that time a lot of stuff that was like outsourced as far as like ads and catalogs and all
so
that
you
type
had a
of stuff.
degree for that. He took you under his wing because you knew what you were doing.
We connected a little bit on that standpoint. But then basically like once I graduated from Syracuse and had this design degree, basically just came in and said like, hey, you need to hire me as like an in-house like designer.
Sure.
You know, instead of like outsourcing this stuff and doing this, like we can do so much of this like in-house between developing rods, reels, all sorts of products, doing packaging, catalogs, print ads, like everything. All that stuff that like a lot of people just can't do, won't do, just don't have an eye for. Basically said like, hey, you know, let's do this. So,
and you still do some of that stuff till today. I mean, you pitch it on the product development side, or like if we come up with something at Cortland, it pretty much goes across Nate's desk last, and we get his stamp of approval, and he's like, no, this looks terrible, guys. You need to go redo this.
This isn't going.
So, anyways, all right, and we'll get to the rest of what you've done in your career, Chris. Was there a job opening when you had first started working at Cortland, or were you in the same boat? You got a buddy here that's like, yo, you want to start working at Cortland? Did you have a resume that you filled? Like what?
None of that. You know, always having a connection with Cortland and just being obsessed with fishing. It was always in the back of my mind, honestly, to work for Cortland. But yeah, I was just at a time in my life I needed a job. I did have someone I knew that worked here, a friend of my dad's, and so yeah, just walked in one day. I think it was a Friday, and filled out a basic application. And I think they hired me right on the spot, and I showed up Monday.
Perfect.
Simple as that.
And you started. What did you start doing?
So my first job, they called it the stock chaser, right? So I was out on the floor manufacturing whatever anyone needed. They called on me.
Sounds like fun.
Go get spools, and then when I wasn't doing anything, it was packaging fly lines. And
Did you work with Mike McGee?
or
was he retired at that time?
He retired like the year I came. He was in shipping and receiving, right?
Stock chaser.
Stock
Such
chaser.
a sick name for
Yeah. So for like a year, maybe a year and a half, I was the stock chaser, and I loved it. I was just every day was something different.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, that's
You
how
were
it all
the-
started.
you were the
Pretty
gopher.
basic.
Just
yeah,
go and-
exactly.
Yeah.
And then after that, when did you start? So you worked in extrusion.
So that's where I went after.
So you
chaser.
stock boy, then to extrusion.
We need someone to run this big machine. I was like, I'm ready.
The
for
mono
it. So,
extruder, right? It wasn't the extruder that we have now. It was the OG mono extruder.
massive, big.
It filled a room.
I remember when I first saw
Very
that.
intimidating machine.
It was
man.
old, right? Which is why we don't have it anymore. But it literally looked like, for those of you that like don't know what an old mono extruder, it looked like the front end of 5 John Deere giant tractors in a row.
Yeah, those were the ovens.
The ovens, they would go through these wheels and it would stretch the mono out. And
In the beginning, it was like a big Play-Doh extruder to put it in someone's mind. Like
Considering-
you load it up and
yes.
you pushed all this material
with
through a
what
different
you
head.
were actually like looking at that was making the mono and what came out, it didn't add. Like the mono we made was awesome.
Yeah.
It's just that the machine was old and the mono market had gotten saturated at that point. Like everyone was getting mono made from this, that, the other place overseas. You know, it just wasn't, you know, it just at the end of the day, it was like this machine needed to get a massive update and that market just got really saturated.
So yeah, I learned that whole machine. It took me about, I think, 11 months to come fully up to speed with it. And then like 2 months later, we shut it down, you know.
Yep.
Disassembled the whole thing. So it was interesting. It was a learning experience, but, you know, to just learn all that, and then for it to get shut down. And
I mean,
it was interesting.
That's how I had started here in manufacturing. And it definitely helps to start a job from the ground up and then move into the product development, sales, marketing role, right? Which we're all involved today. Like, Nate, and Chris, and I know from working down there in the manufacturing or on the other side of this wall, for lack of a better term, like, how things function. But you also know the end use of that while you're making it, right?
Sure,
like, you could make braid, or you can make mono, and I can make fly line, and I know when I'm making it how this has to work because I know how it's going to get used in the field. You know what I mean? Yep. And then once you do that, you make really good products. But then when you come up, as life goes on, you graduate to a sales, marketing, product development, sales rep role. You kind of understand where your strong suits are in manufacturing, how it gets used, but then how to go to market with it. You know what I mean? So that's why I think we have a good team at Cortland here, is because everyone is really well versed from the ground up, specifically to Cortland. You know what I mean? Like I said, that's how I started. I started in the fly line department. Yep. I think it was like 10 years ago. Like, I have a degree. I don't even know what my degree's in, honestly. I remember I graduated junior college. My mom's like, hey, you got into Lemoyne. I was going to play lacrosse there, obviously. It's the only reason why I went to college, because the only thing that got me through, because I'm a moron. She's like, what do you want to major in? I go, what doesn't have math? And she goes, I think communication. So I was a communications major. And that's what I did.
Makes sense.
Problem was, you had to have a minor in English and communication, which was my second worst subject. So I was taking English classes, like, you name it. I was terrible. The only thing that I kept going to school to sit in the seat so I could play lacrosse, and I eventually got through college. So I did not have a degree like you, Nate, where, like, I got the job because of that, which was fine. I just remember I tore my knee playing summer league lacrosse, and I was kind of laid up. I had delayed surgery for 6 months, and then I went and got surgery, and I was going to physical therapy. And this was like right around the time Facebook kind of got big, right? Facebook originally started, like, the only reason you could have Facebook is if you had a college email. And then they opened it up to the public.
Right.
So this was like, I didn't really have like a steady job. I was kind of fishing, painting houses, basically squeaking by to get money, living at home with my parents. Like, I was a loser. And I kept posting photos of fish all the time. Like, that's what I did. And I remember Joe Goodspeed reached out to me, and we started chatting back and forth, whatever. A year goes by, and I'm jumping in a boat to go steelhead fishing. It's literally 6 a.m. Joe texts me. He's like, yo, you want a job? I go, yep. And I showed up the next day, talked to Shelly, hired me on the spot. And that's how I started at Cortland.
I remember you coming into the factory store like a week before that. He hadn't worked at Cortland yet. And maybe it was right when Joe reached out to you.
Yeah.
And you asked me some things about it. I had worked there, obviously. And so, yeah, I remember you coming in there, though. You were fishing at that time, big into, like, steelhead and stuff. And
that's what happened with
Nate.
Nate.
I remember talking about that. Like, Joe reached out.
He used to come in all the time. He'd just, like, show up and, like, come in the office here.
Oh, okay.
And, like, hey,
fix this reel, fix this rod.
Fly line or this or that.
Because we were friends, so I would come see Nate.
Got a rod I can borrow or all this. And so he was here, consistently. And then one day see him here, and it's like, hey, what, like, I remember saying something like, what do you need now? And he's like, I'm working here. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it.
And 10 years later, we're sitting here doing a podcast talking about, the past. So, so your current jobs, like, we all wear a lot of hats here at Cortland. Nate, what are your current positions at Cortland? Kind of your main position, but, like, also the things that you work on a daily basis.
I'd say, the last couple of years, the thing that has kind of gotten really involved in is braid manufacturing, every aspect of that.
The winding, the braiding, the processing.
Yeah, the whole
Those
thing.
are the 3 big ones in braid.
Yes.
And what else do you got going on at Cortland that you do on a daily basis?
I mean,
besides sitting in an office next to me and listen to me every day.
Listen to you talk about, whatever. But, I mean, the product development, we've always got things going on with that. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of those projects, as you know, are just a long-term type thing.
They're evolving too.
Yeah, it just evolves, and you got to go with the flow, really. So that stuff goes on all the time. A lot of stuff with Chris, with
Inventory management, I guess,
all
will fall
that.
under that. Yeah.
Threads and different things.
Right, because you need raw material to braid, and Chris has to purchase that raw material in order for you to braid. So you guys work together a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so braid department, product development, some purchasing, marketing. Like I said before, every time we come up with something stupid, goes across your desk, you give us a stamp of approval or tell us we need to redo it.
Correct.
And a bunch of other small things.
Yeah.
Chris, go over for those of our listeners. What is your main job here at Cortland, and what are the other smaller jobs that you do on a daily basis?
So purchasing right now, that is probably, I wish it wasn't, but probably 90% of my time right now.
Well, you have to buy a lot here.
I mean, hundreds of items. Yeah, it's a massive list. So purchasing, and then kind of still touching in on all the other things I've done: customer service, product development, and just kind of pitching in wherever I can. Just having the understanding of the insides and outs.
Purchasing is a big one for us.
That's massive.
Yeah,
right now.
purchasing.
I mean, that's my time.
I don't think people understand how big purchasing is for Cortland, because it's not like we're purchasing, hey, design this t-shirt, get a few hundred of them in a few sizes and go put them in the finished goods aisle, right? You have purchasing for raw materials, finished goods materials. I'm talking down to, like, if the maintenance department needs a hammer or a screwdriver, you got to buy it. Yep. Napkins, coffee, pencils, pens, Kleenex. But like the big, thread for the braid department, plastisol for the fly line department. It's massive, you know what I mean? And it's like you said before, it's like it's never a dull moment, because it's always something new that you got to buy.
Yeah, it's never.
And then on top of that, COVID has thrown a giant wrench in the supply chain and places you get it from. So like that's why your purchasing is 90% of your time, because nothing's easy anymore in the purchasing world. Yeah. Like pre-COVID, it was like, got your suppliers, the time frame, here's your price, things are good to go. Then it was like, no, 4-week delay. Oh, it's 4-month delay.
For sure.
Oh, it's got to come in on a ship, and it's sitting out in the ocean in front of Long Beach, California, or JFK.
Oh man.
And it's like you work twice as hard to get the same amount of work done that you did before COVID.
Yeah, not having a extensive background in purchasing, I mean, it was tough, but
you got brought up to speed really quick with COVID. I know that.
It was something I'm organized, and like working with people. So as long as you kind of just stick to that, just stay organized. I mean, it all comes
organization.
Sure, that is key here.
Without that, like
when you wear a lot of hats, which we all do, like I said before, being organized is essential to being successful. It's essential to Cortland being successful when we're all organized. So, and we'll get into some of the other things that you guys do on a daily basis. But like we said before, Nate has been here for 25 years. Chris has been here for 15 years. You've seen a lot of people come and go at Cortland, both through retirement, both through just people going to other jobs, people coming in. Who is your number one favorite person that you work with or worked with at Cortland, and why, Nate? I'm talking in 25 years.
Wow,
They could be dead. They could be retired. They could still work here.
Within the archive,
of
my head right now.
Dig deep in that giant head of yours, Nate, and pull a name out and tell us why.
I have one that comes to mind right away. So
all right, Chris, then you go.
Sharon, I enjoyed every moment with
Sharon
her.
Tracy.
Yeah, and I think why? Just she's so great to get along with, and she was. She was
a plant manager, right?
Yeah, plant manager.
She retired last year, 2 years ago.
Just retired. Been here probably up until she retired. I don't know, as long as you, right? 25 years, something like that.
She was here for her mother worked here. Her daughter is now the new plant manager.
Attitude,
I know she was awesome.
Every day, you could always rely on her. If you told her to, you needed something done, it got done. Yeah, it was enjoyable.
She was here before you got here, and she was here after you left.
Yeah,
every day.
There's not many people that just come to mind that were enjoyable. I guess.
All right, Nate.
That's a tough question.
Your turn.
It is.
That's a tough question.
I know it's not me. I know it's not Chris. And Chris already picked Sharon. So.
Oh man.
I know.
I mean, dig deep in that big giant head of yours, Nate. Think of somebody.
I mean, there's a couple people that I'd say I had like great relationships over the years.
All right, I'll rephrase it. Who do you miss the most that doesn't work here anymore?
Oh, that doesn't work here anymore?
For me, Big Tim, Big Lean.
Yeah.
Remember Tim from the shipping department? The guy would find anything possible to lean on, which was the funniest thing ever. Like, he would have a conversation with you, and he would find something sturdy to lean on.
Get an elbow.
Honestly,
everything's on that elbow.
Go ahead, Nate.
And I know some of you may have different comments about that, but I'd say the person that isn't here anymore that I miss working with is Steve
Zatowski.
Yeah,
whose father, Stan,
was the president years ago.
For a long
Steve
time.
came to mind for me too. He taught me a ton.
Steve taught you the shooter, right? Steve and Norm?
Steve and Norm. I learned so much from those guys.
Steve
so
Zatowski, he's local too, right? Grew up in,
Yep.
still lives in Homer, up the road.
Drive by his house all the time. Still got a Steelers flag waving. Proud.
Steve,
Regardless of the season.
yeah, I mean, when I first started working with Steve, at first being a kid and everything, like, I'm like, man, this guy's like a real hard ass, It's like he was very meticulous about everything. He always had his paper and his pencil in his pocket and everything, but
Very old school.
very old school. But like we got along great and we worked together for a long time and still see him periodically,
He was a hard ass at times. I remember when I first started working here.
Man.
He was a
Go ahead.
very, very passionate person about this place.
Well, when your
And
dad's the president during
Yeah.
like the days, bro,
Yeah.
back in the day, and then all of a sudden you step into a role like,
and
I can
you
see
can
why.
say that about so many people from way back when that had worked here, spent their whole working careers here, 30, 40 plus years. I mean, Leon was here for over 50 years. I mean, this place was just everything to them.
Sure. As it is to
And,
us, which is why we're still here
exactly,
every day.
Exactly. So going back to the question, Steve would be the one I'd say that isn't here any longer. And then the first one that came to mind as far as being here, I'd say Norm.
Yeah, for sure.
In the fly line department. Norm's been here for what, 35?
No, over 40.
Over 40?
Yep.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I do like Norm.
So
He does brighten up
I
my day.
enjoyed working with him
Somehow.
on the extruder.
But he was one too. Like the extrusion department was right next door to
The STH.
where
right?
the STH office was. So, being a kid, I mean, at first, way back, I mean, Norm was incredibly intimidating. There was a long time that it was like, I'm not going to talk to this guy.
He still is, but if you get
kinda
on his good
scary.
side, it's fine.
But as time went on, I got to know him more or whatever. It's like we were so close, even though different departments. You pop in there, you start doing things, you help on the extruder a little bit, you
I got
mingle on that stuff. So it was like it was interesting. But
All right. Well, great answers, both of you.
all right.
Shout out Norm, Steve, Sharon. Love you all. So you guys, like I said before, you've been here for a long time. Once you got into more of like your sales and marketing type roles at Cortland, which we all have, we've been lucky enough to also do the trade shows together, which has been a big part of Cortland. Well, it was before COVID, and they've all kind of like slowed down, but they're coming back. Mm-hmm. So we've been fortunate enough, all three of us, to travel like around the country, basically. I'm talking around the country and multiple times a year. Of all your trips, what is the most memorable trip that you took for Cortland? Like, Cortland paid for it. Nate, we need you to go do this. Or Chris, we need you. It could be a trade show. It could be a product development thing. It could be, I don't care.
Memorable and
Like,
because
the number one trip that you're like, I love that trip. Like this, and what was it, right? And why? You got one, Nate?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So even though most of them are all memorable in one way or another,
Which one stood out the most?
the one that was by far the most enjoyable was going to Argentina.
For the STH stuff?
Yeah.
it was a show.
Part of that was?
Part of it. I was in college still. We were still doing a lot of the STH stuff. By that time, Juan and his wife, who were the ones that were running the STH.
They were
stuff
here and then they moved back
They
to
moved
Argentina?
back to Argentina.
Did you get to fish while you were down there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard any of this story.
That was a
Yeah.
dumb question, sorry.
So
Sounds awesome.
we I forget what the exact scenario was as far as like
Why?
we were working on a reel maybe, and it was a combination of that with going with a couple guys from a magazine. So it kind of all rolled together. So it was like me, the president at the time, Brian, and a couple guys from Fly Fish America magazine. We all went and went to Junín de los Andes in the far western portion of Argentina, where the STH factory was,
Yep.
where Juan and his family,
Yep.
are from, and was there for a week, I believe. And
Fishing was good.
fishing,
Food.
the food, just seeing the factory and working on
Cool.
that stuff, as far as
Yeah,
developing a reel, just so much. I mean, it was amazing.
Anytime your work sends you to Argentina, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just it was something else. I mean, ever since this was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and I still think about. I can't wait to
Go
be
back
able to go
someday.
back
Maybe
again.
I'll tell your wife to buy you a trip to Argentina for your Christmas present.
Yeah.
It'll probably end up coming out of your pocket anyways. But all right, Argentina. Chris, what was your most memorable trip that you've ever had
So hard. I
with
mean,
Cortland?
there's so many that I tie into like just epic fishing trips
Sure.
and things like that come to mind.
What's
But,
the one that stands
the
out
one
to
that
you
really
the most?
stands out is IFTD in Las Vegas. Was it ICAST or IFTD?
Both. They were combined.
Okay, so I think maybe that was the first year they were combined. I mean, the show was awesome.
It's like
It
2016 or
It's
something?
the only time I went to Vegas.
Yeah. No, I think it was before that.
Something in there.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, just the overall experience there.
So IFTD, ICAST in
IFTD
Las Vegas.
in
That was
Las
my
Vegas.
first
It was-
ICAST,
It was wild.
IFTD.
So I
That's
went
right,
out
it
there.
was.
I pretty much went out there for one night. I showed up Thursday morning. I remember changing. We flew in, me and Goodspeed, I believe.
Worked a whole day, trade show.
Flew in right from the airport. The show was already going on. Rolled in, changed in the bathroom, right to the show. Worked a whole day Thursday. Pretty much stayed up all night Friday night, and worked another day Friday. Absolutely crushed it. The show was great.
You like Vegas too because you love playing cards.
so that was the other thing. The World Series of Poker main event.
Did you know that was going on, or did you just?
I did like leading up. I didn't
You
know that I was
totally
going to go to the
because
show.
I remember that was all you were talking.
I didn't know that I
about.
was going to go to the show, so it was kind of like a last minute. I don't know if something happened that needed me and Joe,
Yeah.
or maybe it was scheduled that we were coming in those days. Regardless, yes, I knew. So yeah, that was going on. Big poker player, got to go experience that, watch the main event, play a little poker, made some good money while I was there.
I know. I remember. So I remember
Played a
like
game that I didn't even know was possible, and just I excelled at, and just absolutely just
the
crushed the table.
next day, like we had all gone out for dinner, and that's usually what you do after like towards the end of a trade show. You talk to amongst your group, like where are we going to dinner? Talk to some other guys from some other company. Where are you guys? You want to join
yeah.
us? Maybe
I
we
went
join
to-
you. Whatever. I remember Chris was nowhere to be found that night, and the next day I'm like, well, what'd you do? He goes, bro, I went to this buffet, and then I went to the World
Crazy.
Series of Poker. He went to
I went to like a poker buffet.
like a classic Las Vegas buffet by himself, and then went to the World
By
Series
yourself?
of Poker.
No one else came with me there, so
I told you, bro.
dude, it was I had the best meal. I actually came back and you guys were finishing up, and like what I had versus you had, and dollar wise, like I had a great night.
He's like, I went to a buffet by myself, and then so the next night in Vegas, Chris
There's
and I-
also an Elvis convention going
There
on.
was that. I
it's just the
forgot
energy.
about that.
Yeah, there's Elvises everywhere.
Elvis
Just
impersonators
every size,
everywhere.
shape, just
Everything someone, if you have never
There was
been to Las
also
Vegas,
a,
everything someone has ever told you about what Las Vegas was, we experienced it in
Yeah,
like 2 or
just-
3
yeah,
days.
it was
Just the
incredible,
show, the
so-
food, the World Series of Poker, the Elvis convention. It was just like, it was nonstop.
there was like a little cheerleading convention going on.
Oh
too,
yeah, what
like,
the hell was going on?
I don't know.
I remember
There was
that,
a youth
yeah.
youth basketball, cheerleading, Elvis convention.
This
It was
is
just
it.
nothing
This is it.
jived, right? In a fishing show.
Yeah, it felt
and it
great.
was at the tail end of like a cowboy convention. So there was I remember just like guys in cowboy hats everywhere the first couple days we got there. I was like, it was Vegas, bro.
Yeah, flying in, like seeing the strip. And
It was.
lit
Remember,
up,
there
I'm
was
like, this is gonna
the
go.
forest fires. Well, there's not much of a forest, but there
the
was
distance,
a
right? It
wildfire.
was smoke,
I remember there was a kind of like a pink,
Unforgettable
grayish,
experience, that
smoky
whole thing.
haze over the whole city from the sun, forest fire, smoke, and it was just like there was just like this feeling in the air, and it was just like this is weird, man, but it was awesome at the same time. It was. I remember that the freaking forest fires, like the smoke in the distance, dude, in
now that you
Vegas.
say that,
The
I remember
sky
that too.
was-
Didn't spend a lot of
sky-
time outside.
It just like it was sunny out, but it was just like we were at the pool. I remember, and it was like it was just
Brown sun.
dim, dude. It
Just-
was weird. I'm like, this does not feel normal right now. Oh, Vegas. We
Vegas,
met
finally.
Captain Wild Bill from the
Dude, it
Deadliest
goes on
Catch
and
show.
on. We could sit here just talking about that trip for hours.
We got a picture with him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I'll post that. Okay, Matt, the engineer, will post that when we go back and edit the show.
was
But
like
Chris and
3
I,
in the morning.
yeah, we stayed up and experienced Las Vegas as you should. And Captain Wild Bill from the Deadliest Catch happened to be there, and we have an incredible picture with him. And he's a super cool dude.
Yes.
And one thing that I'll never forget is every iCast I see him there, and I show him that picture. And I did that for 3 or 4 years in a row, to the point where I would see Bill after year 4, and he'd look at me and he goes, "What's up, man?" He remembers me. Like he has no idea what my name is, but he just knows, hey, there's the kid that took the photo in Las Vegas the one night. I remember we were in line to go to the Yeti party in Orlando. I go, "What's up, Bill?" He goes, "Hey, man, what's going on?" Like, we're on, I don't want to say a first name basis because he doesn't know my name, but he like, it got, you
I
know,
agree,
and
man.
I look up, I love that show.
I was usually next to you every time. So I
That
agree.
shit is so fun. Like I see it, he'll stop in the middle
When you
of
get
an
that
aisle.
reminder, like on the memory on Facebook.
I
love
share that every time. But like he'll stop in the middle of an aisle at iCast, and I'm like, "Hey, Bill, what's going on?" He's like, "How's the show going, man?" Like he again, he has no idea who I am. He just remembers my face because I was like the little annoying kid from iCast that like, I mean that iCast was. Bill Dance was there, right? Bill Dance, all these guys are there. But like when you grow up fishing your entire life,
iCast,
and you
right?
go to iCast for the first time, and you see everyone there that you have ever like looked up to, watched. I mean, I remember we got to Las Vegas and we went to get lunch, and Artie and I are sitting there, Artie Loomis and I see Bill Dance walk in, because you cannot miss that guy with his giant Tennessee Volunteer hat. And got a picture with him. The best part about that guy is he had a backup Tennessee Volunteer hat strapped to his backpack, just in case that Tennessee Volunteer hat got dirty or something happened. That's him.
That's what he's known for,
That's
yeah.
what he's known. So he literally had a fresh one on his backpack, like ready to go, just in case something happened. Of
course.
Jimmy Houston. I see
Right.
Jimmy
We
Houston.
should show some of those photos. too.
Pictures
Some
of
those
Jimmy.
are
I got
different.
all these photos. I mean, it was like I remember just like every guy I'd call my dad. I'm like, "Dad, Jimmy
I know,
Houston,
right?
and Bill Dance." Like it was a great. Now you go all the time. You're like, "Hey, there's Jimmy, there's
I
Bill,"
know.
but Bill's still cool. I like Bill. Yes, I cast in Las Vegas.
Cool.
I mean, that was my first one.
New Orleans was good, but Las Vegas, I think.
It was
tops
just, it was on another level. It was super cool. All right. That was your most memorable trip. What is your favorite trip that you used to do or you still do that comes up every year that you look forward to?
What we used to do?
Or you still do? Like things have changed a little bit with trade shows, you know what I mean? So let's say those are still going on and we're still doing all the trade shows we used to do because they still exist and they're starting to come back. What is the one trip like every year you're like, I can't wait for that trip? Or when it's over, you're like, I can't wait to go back. I mean, the yearly trips that would happen at Cortland, and it could be something fishing related, something trade show related. I mean, for me, it's more or less the trade shows. You know what I mean? That's what I look forward to the most. I mean, for a while there, like we had made it a yearly thing to go to Cape Cod and striped bass fish. That was super cool. After you do that for a while, it's like, okay, like we've kind of done this before. But for me, like I cast, like regardless of where it is, and it's pretty much been in Orlando ever since that day. Like I loved going to Orlando for iCast, even though it's in July, and Orlando sucks because it's really hot.
Yeah.
It's just smoking hot. But like that trip, like I became very aware of like my surroundings. Or like I knew iDrive, like I knew where every single restaurant, I knew every single shortcut. Right, and we would get to go to tarpon fish or redfish.
It did get comfortable.
You-
What was
we-
it,
I- like, I-
4 years?
Dude, I didn't
think?
even need directions out of the airport after a rental
International
car.
Boulevard, I know where every restaurant.
No,
every
it just
mini
I like
golf
that
course.
one because like I'm a simple-minded folk. I like things that are consistent and comfortable. Like I liked
Especially when you're
Orlando.
traveling away.
Yes,
just
I just like we would get a direct flight on JetBlue. one of the most comfortable airlines there is, right? You got a TV screen. It's like the cost is cheap. Like going to the airport at Syracuse, direct flight on JetBlue to Orlando, rental car, 6-7 days there, tarpon fishing, red fishing, you know, where everything is on iDrive. Top Golf
Always
is there
catch
now.
fish.
Always catch
Always
fish.
catch fish.
Always have a great
Shout out
show.
to Frank.
That's mine.
No, I would second that.
iCast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, ICAST is hard to beat. I mean, trade shows in general, just getting along with everyone. New Jersey, you know, that
The Jersey
trade
fly
show
shows
probably
is
the
a lot
next
of
one.
fun. The thing is with the fly shows is that the fly industry in the trade show world, it's very small, right? Like the other manufacturers, the other vendors and stuff, like you go to those fly shows, which we have for years, right? And you go to multiple shows throughout the year and IFTD. It's the same people, you know, and it's great. Like you become friends with these guys and they're like-minded people like we are. But the ICAST show is cool because the industry is so massive.
Yeah.
Bro, it is so massive that like you cannot see everything at that show in 3 days. You cannot become familiar with, like, you become familiar with a lot of people, but like there's brands that come and go in other conventional, you know, rod, reel, line, right? Like you got your staple brands that are there every year. Then there's some people that roll in that are new conventional brands. Like, I don't know who these 30 people are.
Remember when Live Target, like when
Live,
stuff
yeah,
rolled
those
out,
guys
it was
were
like,
awesome. Remember he
whoa.
slinged us a bunch of stuff. I
Yeah,
still
dude.
have that stuff.
I went
And
one
they're-
year to ICAST, IFTD, and wasn't working and was just able to just go to the show as like somebody
that'd
just
be
Like a consumer, even though consumers aren't allowed. Yeah.
and literally spent all 3 days just going through and just being a normal person, walking around, looking at stuff, talking to people.
Dude, it's
And
awesome.
that was great. That was fantastic.
If you are listening and you have never been to the ICAST show, try to find a way to weasel yourself into the show. If you can find a buddy,
everyone in one room.
jump in someone's
Best of the best.
suitcase.
Newest
Yeah, it's
product.
just like, dude, it's the coolest thing. It really is. But it never gets old.
No,
like
there's always something new.
I
always
do
something
the
to look
booth.
at.
Like I do everything for the booth, and Nate helps me too. Like that is a giant undertaking in itself. Like making a new booth design, like usually every year. Like sometimes our floor plan changes where we have to redesign an entire booth, and it's a lot of logistics and a lot of timing. Like, and it's such a damn headache. But once you're there and the booth is set up, like that show just never gets old.
Yeah.
The people don't get old. Like you'd think you're on Orlando iDrive, we find something different to do. Like the last couple times we went down, I think they had built that Top Golf there. I'd never done Top Golf.
No, the first time.
There's no outdoor golfing in upstate New York, like unless it's July and August. And now I'm like, it's a bar, restaurant, 3-tier driving range with a GPS and the golf ball, and it's lit up at night. I was like, this
Incredible. I think we had to come back and get the rental car. the next
freaking
morning.
Chris and I, we were there for 4 hours. I'm like, I don't want to leave. Yeah, I woke up the next day. I was like, where's the rental car? Remember, I asked John, our president. I was like, hey, John's like eating breakfast by himself downstairs. He's like looking at his phone. I'm like, hey, John. He's like, well, good morning. What's up? I was like, can you give us a ride back to the rental car? It's just down the road. He's just like, no, but you can take my car and have someone else and go get it. And I was like, all right, thanks. He goes, hey. I'm like, yeah. He goes, good job not driving last night. I'm like, well, no shit, John. I was like, that was a no-brainer. But yeah, I went back to, I think Chris was with me. I went back to the Top Golf parking lot at like 7:30 in the morning. Massive parking lot, and there's one car right smack dab in the middle of the car. I'm like, I think that's us right there. That was a great time.
There was
Yeah.
another. I
Top
won't.
golf, wow.
I won't mention any names. It was nobody from Cortland, but there was someone that we know, and there's only one other person I think that will know this story. But talking about some having fun in Orlando at ICAST, but met up with somebody one morning, and I'm like, hey, where's so and so? He's like, I don't know. I haven't seen him. I was a little bit worried or whatever. I knocked on his door, nothing. And majority of the day went by, and he was still like MIA. And afterwards, I think it was like later that night, I'm like, hey, whatever, did you get a hold of so and so? He's like, yeah, he's okay. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Well, what happened? He's like, well, you know, when we left the restaurant and, you know, he decided to stay at the bar and whatnot with these people, whatever. And that he at whatever point he left, there's that like median there, and
Yes, on I-Drive, for you that have never been there, there is a two-way road going up one side with tons of stuff on your right, restaurants, bars, and everything, and there is a two-way going the other way with bars, restaurants, hotels everywhere. But there is
Like
probably
15, 20 foot median.
like a 40-foot, sometimes wider, sometimes
trees,
median,
flowers.
and there's palm trees, nice mulch,
Right,
big thick
yeah.
grass. Like it's gorgeous.
So
it's like a
apparently,
forest in between the two roads.
when he left and was walking back to the hotel, like he tried like walking through the median, like to cross whatever the traffic, and like tripped or whatever, and like ended up like passing out in the median. Slept there all night long. Woke up the next morning when the sprinklers came on and started like watering the grass.
They water everything there overnight.
That's
So
awesome.
that was
that grass is. I mean, it's thick. though.
It's
Stuff's
like
concrete.
Bermuda,
It's like-
Kentucky.
it's like
I don't know
razor
what
grass,
it
but
is.
it's thick.
bro. Yeah, you get in there with you try to walk across it.
you're like walking on air.
Your
It's
hamstrings
like-
cramp up a little bit because it's so soft in there. Yes, that iCast by far, like really good stories. And like the first one we went to in Las Vegas, like I'll never forget. We had broken the booth down. We had two booths there, one for fly, one for conventional. And they were big booths. And after you work a long trade show, like it's exhausting. You bust your ass, you talk to people for 3 straight days. Then you got to break down a booth in a really hot convention center because they turn the air conditioning off.
Right.
And once you get done and the thing's boxed up and it's ready to go, you are like, you're like relieved. You feel accomplished. So you like to treat yourself to something, like a nice dinner right after. And this was my first iCast, so I was like, boys, let's go to the steakhouse. Like, I didn't want to leave the hotel, but our hotel had like 4 different restaurants. And I'm like, let's just go down. It was you, me, and Artie, Nate. And we went down to the steakhouse, which by a steakhouse in Las Vegas, like it ain't cheap, but like, we wanted to be reasonable. So I just remember we had a great dinner. And by great, I mean we ordered pretty much one of everything, multiples of cocktails.
I came in at the end.
Yes,
think
and
you guys
I
were
remember
finishing up with like a brownie sundae.
Chris
for each of
walked
you.
by and he could see us in there. I remember him walking by and he looked over and he kept walking and I just see him come back and look again and he just like saw like all the food and the cocktails on the table. He's like
the place.
he's
they're
like,
at,
boys, like what's going on here? And I'm like, nothing, just having a good meal. So I ran my credit card. It was like $330, right, for 3 guys. We had fun, okay, and we felt accomplished. Well, I went to turn my expense report in like 2 weeks later. I mean, it was $330, bro. I ain't got this much money in my pocket. And I remember I turned it in, and I remember Randy, our old president, was always like, I need a detailed receipt every time you go out and you turn in an expense report. Well, I got the detailed receipt and it was bad, and I got the non-detailed receipt and it just said $330 at some steakhouse. So I slipped that thing in there in between like 14 other receipts, and I'm like, hopefully this goes over, should be fine. He's not gonna look. And I remember Tony Ruggieri, I think she was working here. She was like, I forget, like an accountant type
Tony,
position. Yeah, great lady. And she came back and she's like, hey, Randy's not going to pay for this unless he gets a detailed receipt. And I'm like, shit. And I had lost the detailed receipt. I remember throwing it out. I was like, no one's ever going to find this. Like, please do not know. Gone. And I'm like, oh man, like this $330, like I got to do something. I looked up the hotel we stayed at. I looked up the restaurant. I called the restaurant and this chick's like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah. I'm like, hey, listen, this is going to be a weird ask. It's a weird story, but I had dinner the other night at your restaurant. Here's my name. Is there any way that you can provide me with a detailed receipt of the dinner? And she goes, sure, no problem. What's your fax number? I was like, really? She goes, yeah, this happens all the time. And I'm like, so I gave her the fax number. Bro, I didn't hang up the phone. I heard the fax machine start over there. And that thing started printing papers. And I'm like, shit, bro. Like it would burn through every paper in there. And I remember going over and I looked at the first sheet. It was like premium $20, premium $20, premium $20. And they're all cocktails. And I go, oh, this has got to be broken or wrong. And like the last line item before the next page, it was just like appetizer 33. I'm like, shit, this is correct. So like, yeah, I had a stack of 4 pages, bro, that I turned in to Randy Brown. And the first page was just all cocktails from Nate, me, and Artie. And I stapled that. I put it back in. I was just like, this is not going to go well. Well, a week later, Tony's like, hey, Randy's not going to pay for the booze, but he'll get you on everything else. So I ended up getting like $210 back out of like the $330 or $340. And I kept that to myself for a while, and I eventually told Nate. He's like, dude, you soaked that? I go, yeah, I didn't want to ask you for money. So he eventually bought me dinner like a couple weeks later. He's like, here, man. So anyways, if you're listening, Artie, you still owe me like 50 or 60 bucks from that meal. Anyways, I love ICAST.
Good first show kind of story, live and learn.
Live and learn, right? And from then on, I'm like, dude, you have to be more responsible. Like I was a young boy at the time. I did not know. So
we could have explained that a little bit better, but
I want to keep it G-rated here for the folks that are listening. But yes, it was an incredible dinner. We had a lot of fun. I soaked like $120 in booze for the boys, and it was well worth it. For that, if someone's like, hey, you're going to soak $120, but you're going to have a really good story for the rest of your life, I would be like, all right, let's go. Okay, let's do it. So that's what I did. All right, let's move on. So I came up with this next segment because I've never had two guests that are Cortland employees in the studio. Usually we have like an outside guest or something like that going on. It's called Rapid Fire. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Nate, I'll start with you first, and Chris, I will start with you second. I need an answer within 3 seconds.
We both get the same question.
You're both going to get the same question. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to look at you, Nate, first, okay? And immediately you have to answer the question, and then I will go right to Chris, okay? Are you guys ready?
Say something.
This could be terrible, but I'm like, I need,
Ready.
These people need to know who you guys are. So, all right, you got to pick one. What is your favorite Cortland Line product? Nate?
Flyline.
That is not a product. Wrong. Chris?
Ultra premium.
Ultra premium.
Tippet.
Boom. Okay, Nate, try again. What is your favorite current Cortland Line product?
444 SL.
Perfect. Okay. All right. I didn't see that one coming. Did you see that one coming?
Not at all.
Old school.
Master braid.
Old school.
That's a smooth rider, that line.
Top secret fluorocarbon tippet for Chris. 444 SL for Nate. Okay. All right, next question. What is your favorite, Nate? What is your favorite Cortland discontinued product?
Cortland discontinued. Cortland Big Sky fly rod.
Ooh, Chris, what is your favorite Cortland discontinued product?
The Cortland, it was the Switch fly line, two-handed line.
Okay. So you're saying we need to come back out with both of those? All right.
We will.
Beautiful. I think we've already answered this question, but maybe we didn't. Nate, what is your favorite trade show that you love going to?
ICAST.
Yeah.
Chris?
ICAST.
Agree.
Cheers.
I didn't actually expect to get into the details of the bullshit of ICAST prior to the segment, so I kind of butchered that.
That's a big one. It's a big one.
Okay, that's the easy one. Nate, who is your favorite Cortland Line fly shop dealer?
Troutfitter.
Troutfitter.
Come on, man.
Chris, who is your favorite Cortland Line dealer?
I'm just going to go with Deddy's.
Deddy's.
Just their history.
Beautiful. Both New York shops. Troutfitter in Syracuse, New York. Deddy flies in Livingston Manor. OG shop, bro.
Like about them and
forever ago. Beautiful. All right, Nate, hot coffee or iced coffee?
Hot.
Chris?
Ice.
Nate, beer or seltzers?
Beer.
Chris?
Gotta go with beer.
Nate, wine or liquor?
Wine.
Chris? Wine. Both wine? Really? You drink wine, Nate? He strikes me as a whiskey guy. Where's that bottle of Jim Beam?
That's a whole nother story. Right
okay, I honestly did this. This came out of nowhere. So Chris went fishing the other day and found. I don't know. It was full, bro. I thought it was open.
I thought it was open.
Chris
too.
found a full bottle of
play around.
Jim Beam Devil's Cut Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey on the stream bank.
The things I found this year,
you'll find
incredible.
anything.
I mean, we kind of have like an inside kind of joke going, starting with the tackle box.
I thought this was open, bro.
No.
I was take a sip out of that, and then I was like, I was just kidding because I thought somebody was going to it was like spiked or something.
I thought we might have.
Listen, the places that we fish, when you find an open bottle of like booze, like you don't know what's in there. Yeah. But from the picture, so for those of you that are listening, you got to check out our YouTube video right now. Yes, Chris found this thing's in decent shape. It's extracted from the barrel walls. That's what it says.
Yeah, Devil's Cup.
You would take wine over liquor, Nate?
Yeah, I had a really bad experience.
Growing up in the Finger Lakes, I mean, we got 100 wineries.
I understand, but I know you. I know you drink wine, but Nate's this big burly dude.
Puts you down, though.
I drink wine.
That's
like
why
he
I said
doesn't. You
3
strike me as a wine guy.
bottles.
Nate's like more of a whiskey
I think
guy.
other than maybe having a shot on my 21st birthday,
Stand bourbon, but
I haven't had liquor since I was about 17 years old.
All right. Fantastic. That tastes terrible, Chris, but fantastic find, by the way. I honestly thought that was open. So anyways, let me put that back on the shelf for the next one.
That's awful.
So yes.
That's awful.
I did not know you were a wine guy. Okay, let's keep going with rapid fire. Let's move on from that. Nate, New England clam chowder or Manhattan clam chowder?
Neither.
Neither. You have to pick one. That's the only thing you can eat for the rest of your life or you're going to die without it. New England or Manhattan?
New England.
New England, Chris?
I'm going to say Manhattan.
I knew it.
I like New
I knew it.
England.
I knew
It's
it.
everywhere. You don't see Manhattan.
We talked about this the other day.
Something about that, like,
I do agree.
brought
Like,
to your kind of
I'm a New
flavorful-
England clam chowder guy. Like, I like
For
the
sure.
white
It's
cream. I
everywhere.
I like the whole thing. But when you get a really good Manhattan clam chowder, it's better. Like, I've had really good New England clam chowder, but really good Manhattan clam chowder is where it's at.
I like soups that are just the thinner. I mean, I like the thick ones, but
Yeah. New England's
kinda
like you have a
prefer-
New England clam, you take a nap after.
Yeah.
Manhattan's like the best Manhattan clam chowder I ever had was at a restaurant next to the commercial fishing dock in Montauk with our old sales rep, Mr. John Stacy. It was just like a commercial
I'm sure that was
restaurant.
awesome,
Like
yeah.
you
John
walked in the
Stacy.
doors, just
On the wall,
everyone was
sure.
weathered. Like it was shitty out. It was like 45 degrees, blowing sideways, raining, and we got Manhattan.
I can't even remember the
it
last
was
time
so
I had some.
good.
That's why that's why I kind of crave it and lean towards that.
All right.
But-
Let's keep going. Nate, Wendy's or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Chris?
Wendy, my girl Wendy.
Nate, Skull or Copenhagen?
Skull.
Chris?
I don't even know. Copenhagen because it sounds cooler. I don't know.
Nate, canoe or kayak?
Canoe.
Okay. Chris?
Kayak all day,
I knew
bro.
that was coming. I already knew the answers. All right, Nate, Crocs or slides?
Ooh. Slides.
Slides. I'm wearing Crocs right now, so I'm gonna go with
Those aren't Crocs,
These are
bro.
the Croc
The
brand.
Croc
They're not
brand.
the official Croc.
I've got those.
Doesn't he wear Adidas slides all the time?
You mean like sandal?
Yeah.
Aren't those slides? Yeah.
Flip flops.
Flip flops? Oh, I'd go with flip flops.
All right.
if
Yeah,
you
that
worded
wasn't the
slides,
question, but
yeah.
okay. All right, we're going to move on here. You guys are killing this. Nate, live bait or artificial?
Artificial.
Chris?
Live bait.
I'm going live bait all the way,
Yeah,
bro.
I mean, it's a tough decision, really, but
I just have more fun with live bait.
yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Would you consider egg sacks live bait? Right?
Yeah,
That's live bait,
for sure,
right? Bait,
for
bait,
sure.
bait's bait. Yeah, I'm live
Soak
bait too.
some minnows under a bobber and just sit back.
I asked
It's
myself
so
this
exciting.
question. I just wanted to say live. I like we're a fly fisherman. I get that, like at
For
heart,
sure.
but like
I fly
Sinners.
fish way more of the time.
I love like throwing live line in a bunker or an egg sack.
Yeah, man.
The classic night crawler, bro.
Yeah,
I
marshmallow
love
and
looking
worm.
around in the
Okay,
middle of the night
okay,
with a
like-
headlamp with my kids picking night crawlers to go bullhead
Night
fishing.
crawlers.
Yeah, we throw artificial way more flies, lures, stuff
All
like
right.
that. But I'm going live.
Nate, who is your favorite current or past Cortland sales rep?
John Shaner.
Chris.
Going John Stacy.
Ooh, those
Johns.
guys are so awesome.
Yeah, they're gonna appreciate that.
Some guys know
Yeah.
who John Stacy and John Shaner are,
But it's true.
but if you
guys-
don't, when you get those two guys together, it is they have the funniest goddamn stories.
didn't both of them kind of cover kind of the same territory in New
They
York State?
covered,
They
yeah, they
worked together
covered,
for a
they
while.
covered the same
New York,
New York,
England,
PA, a little
yeah,
bit,
close.
and then once
Jersey.
they both started repping and working for Hardy,
That's who I first started like going to the shows with.
Shaner.
Shaner and Stacy.
If
I went to my first show with Shaner.
If you are listening and you are traveling to a city where you don't know to eat, you contact John Shaner because John Shaner will tell you the best restaurants
I agree, man.
and multiple restaurants.
First time I ever had squid or something like that. Something just bizarre was with Shaner.
Dude, he knows.
that was when I first like calamari and lobster.
Yeah, calamari.
with them
The guy,
in Denver.
He knows good food. Like when you get to a trade show and you're done setting up your booth before the show starts, like the pre-show, like I've heard him like walk over. He's like, "Where are we eating tonight, boys?" They're like, "I don't know." He's like, "I got this great Korean place down the road." Yeah. Like, and he does.
That's the first question in the morning.
Yes. Behind us, is that what you just said?
Yeah, sort of.
Anyway,
9 o'clock in the morning. First question: Where are we going to dinner tonight?
Like you'd hear him another.
That guy. He knows good food. He loves good food. And if you're curious where to go, that guy has got John Stacy on the other hand. He knows where a good cocktail is. But John Shaner, he knows where good food is.
Hell of a dry fly fisherman.
Oh,
too, right?
dude, the dude's and he's a hell of a guy. But did I tell you I saw him on the river on the Delaware?
Shaner?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen that guy outside of a trade show for fly fishing. I mean, not at a gas station, not on a sidewalk, never. The only time I've ever seen him is at a trade show. And he's an upstream dry fly, chalk stream, English, like he's old school, right? But he loves it and he's good at it. And I was fishing with Tom Zarecki from Angler's Den, and we were coming down through Deposit in a drift boat. And, okay, if you've never seen John Shaner, or maybe you have, you can pick this guy out from a mile away. He's a bigger guy, he's very short, but he has a body build and demeanor to him where you're like, that's John Shaner. We come underneath the Deposit Bridge, and he's in the tail out of that big, long pool before you get to the railroad track crossing down below, which is another 300 yards. And I'm in the bow of the boat, and I see this guy, and I'm like, that's John Shaner. And I'm like, I don't want to tell Tom. I'm like, hey, Tom, you ever, John Shaner from Hardy? He goes, oh, yeah, bro. I go, that's John Shaner down there. He goes, no, John Shaner's a little bigger than that. I think he's a little shorter than that. Well, we get closer to him, and by God, it was John Shaner. And John Shaner lost a bunch of weight recently, so he did look different. And he was also standing on a rock that made him look a little taller because he's very short. But yes, you can pick. Who are you with? Tom Zarecki from Angler's Den. I might have butchered his last name, but the guy was 300 yards away. I go, John Shaner, and we had a great conversation. It was the first time I've ever seen him outside of a fly show, and he looks really good. And I think we're going to start working with him next year because the dude's he's awesome. And he's kind of freed up. He's retired, so he's able to do a lot more stuff. So anyways, let's keep going. Nate, PlayStation or Nintendo?
Nintendo.
Chris?
Nintendo.
Right? Yeah. Old school Nintendo or Nintendo 64? Old school?
Old school. 64, man. It's been a lot of years. Kind of, that was our peak. Yeah.
Split off from that. Nintendo or Super Nintendo?
Nintendo.
I remember Super Nintendo. I was more of an outside kind of guy.
Oh, shut up, Chris. You're ruining this thing. All right. What do you say, N64? Dude, N64 was sick.
Those were cool.
The GoldenEye 007 in N64 is by far the greatest video game ever invented. Okay, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, right? That's great and all. Go ahead, Nate. I see Nate's mouth moving. He's not saying anything.
N64 with the gold. I think it was the GoldenEye. It was the Bond.
Yeah.
Whatever. That was what we played all through college.
Bro, the game was wicked.
You could play
all through college.
It was the first time you could play 4 controllers at once.
Yep.
The maps, the guns, the everything. That video game, I would still play that every single. If I found an N64 and it had GoldenEye, I would play it right now on this screen.
The silencer when you shoot the gun with the silencer.
Right.
There was different guns.
There was you had the PP7, the RPG. Like that game was like whoever made that game is sitting on a beach with a cocktail right now with a lot of money. I mean, that thing was it was the first like PlayStation you could do like split screen, but I don't even know if you could like play against each other, like N64, like remember I had PlayStation but not N64, and I really wanted N64 just for GoldenEye 007. And then like now it's cool because you can play online like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but like I still think guys that love Call of Duty or Call of Duty in general would go back and love 007. Like you said, Nate, in college, when you could get 4 guys on the same giant street and split it up in 4 ways, like, and when you learned the maps, you would look at the other guy's screen, you knew where he was if there was no map, like you're like, I know where he is in this corner. Yeah, it was great. I would still play that. All right, let's move on. Nate, Red Bull or Monster?
Monster.
Chris?
Red Bull.
Ooh. All right, last one of rapid fire. Nate, what is your all-time favorite movie?
Rambo.
I don't know.
All-time favorite, Chris.
I like the movie Blow. You guys see
Ooh, that is a good one.
Kind of, yeah. So that's what came to mind. Big Johnny Depp.
Rambo.
Yeah.
I did not see that.
Rambo is badass too.
Yeah. There is a
Like
new
raw, just like
Sylvester Stallone, correct?
Yes.
He has a new TV show that comes on after Yellowstone on Paramount called Tulsa King or something like that. I watched the first episode. It's pretty good, but dude, watching Sylvester Stallone and Rambo and then looking at him right now on this Tulsa King show, like, does not, like, I know he's a lot older, right? But dude, just like he's a weathered old man
Dude,
at this
he's like
point.
80 years old.
I know, but he's still jacked.
he is.
Anyways, Blow and Rambo, love it.
Yeah, right.
I did
guys
not
like
see
Blow?
that one coming. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Awesome movie.
Johnny Depp, right?
Yeah.
Poor guy lost all his money.
Oh, that's wild.
Pirates of the Caribbean. I love those movies. All right, I like that. Was that a good segment? You like? All right, the boys in the
I
background
like
are
the
they're
rapid
shaking,
fire, man.
right?
I wish we had like 100 more.
Well, we were going through
Just a
these.
whole episode of
Well, I was
rapid
trying to
fires.
do this before the podcast when it was previously scheduled. I was on a time crunch, and like, bro, there were some funny ones that Matt and Ricky came up with. I was like, I got to end this right in
Great.
here.
I like
It's
the
called
rapid
rapid
fire.
fire because you're supposed to answer them really quickly, but Nate did a terrible job at doing that. So I'm going to change the name from rapid fire to just like this or that or something. All right, I thought this was a good segment to help people get to know you guys, right? Now when they see you, they're going to be like, I'll get Nate some whiskey. No, Nate wants wine,
See?
right? I'll get Nate some White Claw seltzers. No, Nate wants beer. And somehow someone's going to get you Copenhagen dip, Chris, even though you don't dip. Scott usually sits in here. I like this segment. Scott's segment, it's called Your Questions. Scott can't sit in here because Nate and Chris are sitting in here. We were going to buzz Scott in through like Zoom, but I just figured we would nix the whole potential like technology issues we may have. So I had Scott come out with 5 questions for you and I to answer from our customers. And I kind of had him find the questions that we felt like both of you might help answer. You follow me? Like, there's a lot of questions we get all the time, but I weeded through ones that did not pertain to you. So at least it's more interesting for you guys. So, all right, Scotty's segment. All right, I'm reading these off. Scott usually reads these and he's really good at reading, so I might butcher this. So, all right, I do a lot of saltwater fly fishing with my Tropic Plus all-purpose line. How often should I be cleaning my fly line, and is there a right and wrong way to clean it? So when it comes to mine, Tropic All-Purpose, which is our standard Tropic PVC coating line, saltwater fishing. So I'll help answer this, and you guys can chime in.
Sure.
Minimum, you need to be spraying down your equipment and your line with fresh water after every saltwater out.
Yep.
At a minimum, you need to do that. The Tropic Plus coating is extremely bulletproof in the sense that like you don't really need to clean it and maintain it that much. Although
agree.
if you want the best performance out of it, you should be cleaning it. At a minimum, spraying it down with fresh water. Would you both agree with that?
Absolutely.
At a minimum. How often should you be cleaning it? Usually, if you're fishing day in and day out and you don't clean that line down and you just spray it down with fresh water and you don't do a good job of doing that, you will see a performance difference like over time. Like saltwater is just sticky, it's tacky. Like if you've ever gotten saltwater spray from a boat, like your glass, like everything
it was like
right. So that's going to happen to your fly line.
Yeah.
So fry line. That's going to happen to your fly line. So I would say if you have the time, you should clean it down every time. You are going to get the best performance out of your saltwater fly line.
The best performance
Spraying it
line.
down. So usually what I would do is, spray it down with fresh water on the reel. I would then strip it through a wet rag of like a wet washcloth, like found the nicest one in your wife's closet and use that because it's got nice plush and it's soft and everything, and wipe it. That way you're going to get all the salt off. I would then there's 2 cleaners and they're both the same, but one's a kind of convenience factor and the other one's kind of a tube that you get a lot more stuff. So the Cortland cleaning products, once you get that fly line stripped off your line, or off the reel, and it's stripped back through like the wet rag, you get all the salt off it. Take that cleaning solution, I'll talk about the tube, or you can use like the little pads that are pre-soaked, and either like squeeze that material out onto a clean dry rag. Do not use a wet rag. squeeze that material out onto a dry rag or use the pre-soaked pads and simply pinch that line around the pre-soaked pads or the rag soaked in the material and just reel that back onto the reel. Good to go.
For sure.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Sometimes I run it through twice, but yeah, definitely the performance you get after you dress that line is incredible. And if no one's cleaned a line, like using those pads, like your line, you might think it's clean, but when you run that line through that pad, like you'd be surprised.
And change the angle by which you do it.
So I always go one way and then completely flip it and pretty much make an X.
Go ahead, Nate.
I'm old school, so I mean, back in the day when I was, starting off and learning all this stuff, Leon was still around, and he was a big proponent of like cleaning and taking care of your stuff, and it was like you need to clean your line every time you use it.
And it helps with the longevity of the product.
That too.
Cleaning it, stretching it, that stuff.
That's the way it runs through guides after it's dressed.
Every time.
There's nothing like that.
Clean your damn line, folks.
Like
You'll
I
be
said,
happy.
if you've never ran one through a pad and see all the dirt that comes off,
It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. It really is. I should do it more.
Reminds
often,
me of
but I
those
don't.
old like pads you used to rub on your face in teenage to get like you remember like the zit pads, which is
Exact same
You know what I'm
size.
talking about?
I do. It's
Which is funny because I woke up this morning. I haven't had a goddamn zit or a pimple on my face since I was 15. I woke up today. I looked in the mirror. I had one right here, and you can see it. And I looked in the mirror. I was like, "We're filming a podcast today." I was like, "Wait a minute." I thought about the camera angle. I was like hoping it was going to be on this side so people wouldn't see it. And I'm like, "Shit, it's on my good side," which this isn't my good side.
Little
And then I was like,
makeup or something on there.
so I was gonna ask my
can't
wife.
tell.
I'm like, "You got some like touch up makeup?" And then I go, "Wait, that would be even worse if someone's like, does that dude got makeup on his nose right there?" So I just let it rip, and it kind of went
Faded
away.
away.
Yeah. But when I woke up, I
Good
was
thing
like,
we had an afternoon.
I was like, "Oh, bro, this is not good." So yes, I did. I did not put makeup on this morning. I just want to let everyone listening know that. So yeah. Anyways, clean your line, folks.
Clean your fly line.
Clean your fly line. All right. Here it was kind of what we were talking about before. I travel around the country. I do a lot of work, and I'm planning to stop at some of the fishing trade shows along the way. If I had to choose between the Denver Fly Show, the New Jersey Fly Show, or the Atlanta Show, which one should I go to? You guys have gone to pretty much all three of
Go to
those.
Atlanta.
If you had to pick one, I don't know. It sounds like this guy kind of gets around these bigger cities, and he wants to basically choose one of them. Probably needs to spend a couple extra days there if he wants to do it. If you had to pick one, which one would it be? I guess, and why?
I can only say New Jersey. I've never been to the Denver one.
Okay.
So
I'd say Colorado, just because of the people, and then if you are going to be there for some time, just the fishing opportunity you have.
Yeah.
When you're there, very, very close to downtown, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with both of those, by the way.
hour,
Like, if you want a big trade show, you're going to see the most vendors and the most manufacturers and the most fishy
Jersey,
people.
probably.
New Jersey and Denver
Yeah.
are definitely the best
I would
ones.
say, as far as the show, New Jersey.
If you want, like, easy access and some good food, Denver's probably a little bit better. I mean, there's some great food in around the Jersey show, but you got to travel a little bit. If there is a fishing potential going on, it is not New Jersey in late January. It is definitely in Denver. And I get the times when those shows have kind of switched a little bit, although I know that the Jersey show is always the weekend before the Super Bowl. I cannot say the same for the Denver show anymore, and they might have moved it, but that one used to be
the
in
end of February.
No, it used to be in early January.
it was
Well,
like
now it's the end of
mid-January, I
February.
think.
Yes, mid-January. And you don't know what you're going to get in Denver in mid-January. I've gone there some years. I think we've been there where it's 55 degrees every single day. It's awesome. We've also gone there where it's 10 degrees and it's brutal. So if you have a chance to fish and you want to fish, Denver would probably be the best one. Yeah. If you're just like, I don't really care about that, I just want to go to a trade show, you're not going to go wrong with either the Jersey or the Denver show.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, when you're in one of those shows, when you walk out, all you want to do is fish. So
Yeah.
you should go to Denver.
Yeah, Denver's it's cool. Plus, Denver's freaking cool. Like there's
everything about
bro,
it,
that trade show in New Jersey, like as big as that is, or it used to be pre-COVID, and it's coming back. Like that's probably a little bit bigger than Denver in terms of like the manufacturers there and like the celebrities and the people. But the scenery around that convention center, it's like, dude, it's at a dead end road near the
stuff
Raritan
going on,
Bay.
yeah.
it is wacky shit going on out back. Like Denver, although it used to be next to a dog food factory, they have since moved it to a nicer location.
I remember that first.
But you got the mountains in the background, dude. It's cool. And downtown Denver is really cool. So and it's not like North Jersey, like you're kind of close to New York City. Like you are not close to New York City at the Jersey show. You are, but you're still 2 hours away from New York City, as you know, in a car. Okay, I'll move on here. I'm going on a family trip to Florida, and we'll be targeting redfish. I'm looking to pick up some master braid. What size and color should I get? I don't think I've personally spin fished for redfish before. I usually fly fish when I go down there.
I haven't either. Yeah.
I would say if Florida, if he said Louisiana, because I know those redfish are much larger, right? Florida, your typical redfish, 4, 5, 6, 7 pounds. Somewhere there. There's big ones. Don't get me wrong. I would say, and you guys can agree or disagree, somewhere between like 15 and 30 pound master braid.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you want the
relating
distance.
it to what we do here,
right?
just like size of fish. Yeah.
Like
I think if you want distance, it's the 15 stuff like that.
20 is like a no-brainer.
Yeah, 20 and 30. I think
30 if
probably,
you feel like you're going to be targeting some bigger fish. Like I remember the Sebastian Inlet where you and I went. Like those things were donkeys, dude. Those were big
incredible.
fish. Like I would want 30 in that situation.
For sure. Yeah, it depends on the situation too. Yeah.
For sure.
Size of fish and where you're hooking them.
Distance, size of fish, hooking them. I'd say 15, 20, or 30. You can't go wrong.
20 pounds is such a great all-purpose size.
You don't need anything more than 30.
Strength.
I would not go anything less than 15. Color-wise, I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, I've seen a lot of inshore rods with like tons of different colors. I'd say preference-wise,
where you are too. Redfish inhabit so many different.
I know that's another thing. Like you kind of want your braid to blend into the environment, like bronze.
Bronze in our moss.
Bronze. I would probably say like bronze, moss, like. Those, I would say bronze or moss. You could say white or blue, but at the end of the day, you're going to be putting a floral leader on the end of the braid. So it doesn't come into account that much, but I'd say bronze. That's going to be your most neutral color.
Yeah. Same.
Sometimes those fish are in a little more like darker water. Sometimes they're in gin clear water. So that's not an easy answer compared to some other questions that we might get. So 15, 20, 30 pound master braid, we recommend bronze or moss green. Again, can't go wrong with color, really. No, blue, you're fine.
There are some guys that really like the high vis and that whole side of it. So, but yeah, I think
perfect.
And the natural, yeah.
Okay. All right. I haven't got this one before. I need to get a fly line for my wife. Never heard this before. She's still working on her casting, but can get it done. What is a good all-around trout line that you would recommend for her?
I'd say our trout boss. Just a little more weight to it. Just something that's going to be easy to cast, right? Something like.
I mean, it's a good question.
All-purpose line. There's other lines that come to mind that will cast better and turn over better.
At the end of the day, this isn't like a male-female question. It's just how the guy's getting a line for his wife.
Something with a little more weight, right? It's going to turn over and perform.
I would not say she needs a line for this because she's a female. Let me just point that out. This basically comes down to like casting. Technique, preference, right, and ability. Yeah. So Chris said the trout boss line, which I would agree with. Why I would choose a trout boss line is because it's a heavier line compared to an industry standard line. What that is going to allow you to do, and this might be the case for any line, just look for a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more overweighted line. And what that's going to help do is load the rod a little deeper compared to a standard line weight. It is going to generate more line speed and more energy. Line speed is critical to delivering the fly at a certain target, right? Good casters do not really need the grain weight to load the rod. They can generate the line speed kind of themselves and almost flex the rod. But
for sure,
beginner casters or casters that don't have that line speed to help flex the rod and load the rod to create the line speed and the energy, usually you can offset that by going to a slightly heavier line per the rod.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
So I would say the trout boss is probably number one that I would go through. I'm talking an all-around trout line to help a less ability of a caster create energy and deliver the fly there. You could really go, if you got nerdy about it, you could look at what is the standard grain weight of the rod you're fishing, right? Is it a 4-weight? It should be 120 grains. Is it a 5-weight? 140, right? And that should load the rod. Regardless of what you're going to choose, I would go up a line size. So if you're fishing a 5-weight, make sure you got a 6-weight line on there. If you're fishing a 6, make sure it's a 7, and so on and so on. Like we said, the trout boss is already overloaded. So if you're fishing a 5-weight, buy the 5-weight trout line, and it's going to help you load the rod deep, make a cast. Cool?
Yep, makes sense. Yeah.
And good luck fishing with your wife, bro. That lasts for like twice, 2 outings, and then it's kind of over. I promise you that. I'm taking my first trip to the Upper Delaware near Cortland. My guide, which for those of you, the Upper Delaware is 1 hour from Cortland's home office. We consider it our home trout water. My guide said we will be streamer fishing or dry fly fishing, but not nymphing. What leaders should I pick up for this trip?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Streamers or dry flies? Which you've done both while we were there. You do both all the time there. Not nymphing. This guy is not nymphing. He's not Euro nymphing. He's not bobber nymphing. He is not nymphing. I'd say number one, if you're dry fly fishing on the Delaware, minimum of a 9-foot leader. I highly suggest just skipping that and going to a 12-foot leader.
Yep. 100%.
Those fish are smart. They're spooky. Nate knows this. It's very
Either
frustrating.
Add to a 12 or just fish a 12 out of the package.
I would say a 12-foot leader without a doubt. If I would get a 9-foot leader for this example, if it's very windy, which oftentimes it is down there. If it is not windy 3 hours away or 30 minutes away, you go to the Delaware, the wind just blows upstream there at a minimum of 15, 20 miles an hour every day.
We experienced that last trip.
It's weird,
we had there,
bro. It's just it howls
you go
upstream.
With your traditional
and it usually
silverware.
the fishing's really good when it does that, because I've gone there on calm days and the fishing isn't good, and I don't know, it sucks, right? It just there's so many fish, they feed so well, but there's always something working against you.
Yeah.
Not to mention these fish are really smart. So I'd say grab a couple 9-footers just in case it's really windy. What that allows you to do is to get a dry fly where it needs to be and not have the wind dictate, float that around. You're probably going to be fishing a 12-foot leader most of the time. And I would grab maybe 1 or 2 15-footers in case it is slicked out calm and the fish are really spooky. The grand scheme of things, what you're trying to do is get your fly a ways away from the tip of your fly line, right? You want to come in with a real stealthy approach with like a thin mono that lands really softly. So I would say grab a couple 9-footers if it's windy, grab a couple 15-footers if it's just slicked out calm and you got to use real small dry flies in some pressured areas. But a 12-footer, I would grab a few more of those. Yeah, that's a go-to. You can always trim it back or add a little bit to it.
For sure.
As far as streamer fishing goes, there's 2 things you can do. You can get a 7.5 or a 9-foot standard nylon tapered leader for like a floating line setup, or the new streamer leaders that we just came out with. There's 2 different options there. You have a 4-foot tapered leader, which is great for sink tips. So if the water's super high and you need to run a sink tip, I would grab the 4-foot tapered leader. And then we have the 7-foot tapered leader for floating lines. Those are kind of a no-brainer. It even says streamer fishing right on the packaging. So those are available in a 3X up to an 03X. So basically you have the option to go down to like real light stuff with your 3X, like smaller streamers, or if you're throwing real big streamers down there, which you probably won't be unless the water's extremely high.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you have a good range in there. Like I said, the 4-footers for the sink tip and the 7-footers for a floating line. And then I would kind of get a range of each, just because you don't know what the water is going to be doing down there. It is controlled by a dam. They can decide to turn the dam on at any moment. You can have a big rain event. It could be ripping. It could be really low, and in that case, you would probably want to pare down your streamer leaders and go much lighter. Probably a floating line. Floating lines are great, kind of all-purpose line down there. But if the water is really low, you're probably just going to be throwing a floating line.
Yeah.
If it is super high, and you know this, we went down there last year.
The last
3,000 CFS. We were throwing a 10-foot sink tip, and it was perfect.
It was great.
I wouldn't change anything. So
Good day.
10-foot type 6 streamer sink tip is probably as most as you need to go. Even if the water gets higher and you think you might need to go to a heavier, longer sink tip, those fish just relate to the banks more.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
That's where they all were, yeah.
You're banging a bank at that point in time. It's how they seek cover from like the super heavy flows.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's a good question. I think that's one piece of water that we go to that we bring all of our guns.
For
right?
sure.
You bring everything. I'm always walking with a few rods, and as far as leaders go, I have the full range on me all the time. So yeah, listen to what Brooke said and get a few options, and you'll be in good hands.
Perfect. Agree?
Yeah, totally.
Nate's not going to disagree.
I'm not going to disagree.
After last year's version down there of Nate. Nate, how many times did you fish down in the Delaware before we went on that trip? A few times?
Yeah, I mean, at least once or twice a year.
Right.
I mean, not something that I go to all the time, but
I just
definitely-
remember how frustrating it was to get a fish on a dry
There's so
fly
many
that
fish
day.
rising, so that kind of plays into it. You're like, I should get one.
I know,
but like,
well,
it's not.
That's the issue down in
better
the
if there's
Delaware.
1 or 2 fish
Is
rising.
there's so many fish that are rising, you just kind of lob your cast
one
in there.
looks
You're
like
something's
it'll
gonna
eat,
eat the
like,
damn thing.
yeah.
There's 40 fish in a bucket
When
here.
you're making a cast to one fish and you pick up and like you're throwing to another one, like
I know.
traditionally it just usually doesn't work.
I
that.
feel more confident when I'm throwing at one fish down there, because when I start throwing at multiple fish, I tend to just kind of lob my line in there
Yeah,
and just
that's-
like, you're like, this fucking thing's gonna hook
Kinda what was
something,
going on.
you know?
I mean, we got to the point where we're like calling, we're like, Nate, this way, that way. I remember him at the front.
He's like, shut up, guys, I'm trying.
I know.
It is very frustrating. Like, you will see on a decent day of dry fly fishing down there, you will see so many trout rising that are going to refuse your fly, and you are going to get so frustrated. And that's what makes that place so good. Like, when you get a bunch of fish on top down there, like, that is a good day. Like, and that does not happen to me or any of us that work here, or a lot of people for that example. Like, I had a lot of guys down there that were friends with that guide that have, like, they'll tell me when they have good clients or bad clients, you know, on the boat, and they'll tell me how they did. They'll be like, dude, we got like 3 fish today, and I had my good guys. And then there's other days where, like, there are days down there, I'd say every couple, 2 times a month or something, the fish just get stupid. And that, like, a bug will change. Like, there's all of a sudden it's sulfurs, and then it's like cloudy, misty, and calm, and blue wings come out, and they get dumb all of a sudden. They get dumb when spinners fall. That change in the bug activity, I feel like it just, when they're keyed in on the same bug every day, like sulfurs, like caddis, like Hendricksons, they get very smart. They know what the underbelly of that bug looks like, and if it's slightly off, they ain't eating it. And a lot has to do with your tippet size too. Like 5X, 6X, 7X in the middle of the summer. Rarely 4X in the early season on some bigger bugs. You can get away with it, but usually it's a 5X, 6X, 7X game.
For sure.
And it's a man's game down there, or a woman's in this case. It is so frustrating down there, but it's very, like, when you get one, it is rewarding. So anyways, good luck down there on your trip, and let us know how it goes. Scotty, thanks for the questions today, bro.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, Scotty does a nice job with that. I think that we've kind of covered everything for today's episode. Scotty's got the new segment, Rapid Fire, in there. Yeah. I think we went over some good stuff on the interview for the listeners. Like,
there's so much more. We're gonna need like episode 2.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot to talk
get
about.
there. I wanted to keep it, general. I felt like, oh man, I just got a trail cam pick here. Oh, it's nothing. So I felt like this was a good interview, and we can do this with almost anybody here, but allowing our listeners to understand, and like I said, putting a face, if you're watching YouTube, or just a name behind the product in which you're using it. You know what I mean? And if you love this podcast and you listen to each one, when we reference Chris and Nate in future podcasts, you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. Like, Chris likes Copenhagen and Nate likes wine. So I think that'll be a good thing, and I think it's just it helps build the brand, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're using a Cortland product, you're like, I know these guys, I listen to their podcast, like, there's a name behind this, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that was really the biggest thing I wanted to have you. And plus, you guys, like, you got a lot of experience here, you know what I mean? 40 years combined experience. That's a long time, dude. I mean, this place has been in business for...
We definitely both still enjoy walking in the door.
Oh, yeah.
Every day. So
100%. This place has been in business for, what, 107 years? 105? I don't know, bro. I lost track. I mean,
100,
so, like,
7.
combined, you guys have almost been here for half of it. I mean, you've seen a lot of things happen, good, bad, ugly, positive, people come and go. There are stories that we cannot tell on the air that Chris and Nate know, and they're very funny. So probably what I'll do, and I'll do a good job of doing this next time, is, like, I'm going to ask you over time, like, about stories, right? And I'm going to keep a list of those stories. And then I'm going to somehow try to keep those stories funny, which they are, but also G-rated, because there's some things in there that, like, are just which we can't talk about, right? But so we'll kind of skip those parts. But, like, I didn't have enough time to do my homework when it comes to that stuff. So probably the next time we'll get to you guys. Like, I would like to kind of keep you guys on as, like, the industry insiders, right? Because you have the most experience out of, like, anyone here, and you have a ton of stories. Like, we didn't even get to IFTD in New Orleans, bro. That's a that's a podcast in itself. And the rest of the trade shows are the funniest. Those were the best times. You know what I mean? And I think even just like kind of the industry insight of like the other brands that like we hang out with and work with at trade shows, like there's a lot of great people out there like in our industry, and they're super fun. I mean, they're just like us. These guys, you work hard and you want to have a good time after the stuff, and there's some funny shit that goes down after. Some of it we can share, some of it we cannot share. So I will try to do my job and make sure that those stories are all heard and keep it in, pretty reasonable manner to say those. Shout out Jim Beam, Devil's Cut. Thank you, Chris, for finding that. Yeah, I mean, it was honestly terrible. Let's be honest here. That thing's going to stay there for a while. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. This is Cortland Line Hook, the podcast, and you can listen to us on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
We're everywhere.
Dude, I don't know. There's a ton of stuff. Just look us up online, and we'll tell you there. I do a terrible job at my job. If you're listening to this, you obviously know where to find the podcast at the end of the day. So tell us what you think. Drop us a comment. Drop us a line on the YouTube comment section. Fish Cortland. You can drop Scotty a line at info@cortlandline.com. You can call us at 607-281-7561, something like that. Yeah, if you just want to chat and talk to Chris and Nate.
Yeah,
or look up the 1-800 number.
Yeah, look that number up. That's not right.
That might have been the fax line. Sorry, folks. Anyways, get a hold of us if you got a question or if there's something that you want to hear on the next podcast. We're all ears. So anyways, thanks for listening, folks. Nate, thank you. Chris, thank you.
Absolutely.
And join us next time at Cortland Hook, the podcast.